McDonald's isn't a hard job. McDonald's isn't a hard job. Welcome to the English Language Learning Podcast. That is our headline today. It's not news. No noticias. It is from social media. It is an opinion given by someone. É uma opinião dada de alguém que queriam julgamento no tribunal de opinião social, nossa rede social. So, McDonald's isn't a hard job. Here is their explanation. As somebody who has been working here, McDonald's, for a year now, casual but with full-time hours, and who hasn't worked before this job is a lot easier than people make it out to be. I've been trained on everything, and I love my job. I don't see why people make it out to be so horrible. Sure, we get abusive customers here and there, but you'll get that with almost every job anyway. So to those who really want a job, I suggest working there, McDonald's. It's worth it. And that is the entire elaboration or explanation for the opinion. McDonald's isn't a hard job. Well, McDonald's não é trabalho difícil. Coming up next, all things English. Before we talk about work, what makes work difficult, and specifically some conditionals about McDonald's and you. What would you do? Would you work at McDonald's? Coming up next. McDonald's is not a hard job. McDonald's is not a hard job. That is the opinion. We read a short explanation or a short elaboration. Now we will break down and evaluate the English. So, there's not much difficult vocabulary here, but let's do grammar. Yay! As somebody who has been working for a year now, stop. Has been working. This is a conjugation that you don't really use or have in Portuguese. So has been working is present perfect continuous. It has the have, right? The auxiliary verb to have. It has the to be in the participle, been, has been, working. It has an ing progressive conjugation at the end, and that is the actual verb. So work is the verb conjugated in present perfect continuous, has been working. Somebody who has been working for a year now, working here at McDonald's. So when do we use this? Present perfect continuous. We use this to include the present moment's continuous action, working at McDonald's, into a past timeline. Usually, to talk about or express a length of time of an action that started in the past, que continua até o momento presente. So again, this is a good example because it's pretty clear. Someone is talking about McDonald's, working at McDonald's. How do we know that? Como sabemos isso? Wow, the title. McDonald's is not a hard job. And she says, or he says, as somebody, como alguém, who has been working here for a year now. So here would be McDonald's. So what can we extract? What information can we take away or understand from someone who has been working somewhere for a year? We know that they're still working. Eles ainda estão trabalhando aqui, né, nesse sentido, aqui at McDonald's. And we know that their work começou faz ano, because they tell us, I am somebody who has been working at McDonald's for a year now. So when I say we usually use it to talk about a length of time, how long an action started that is also continuously still happening, we can use present perfect continuous. How would you say this in Portuguese? I don't really know academically or grammatically perfect how to say this in Portuguese, but I would say it like this: como alguém quem está trabalhando aqui faz ano. So I guess in Portuguese you maybe just use faz ano for how long something started. And you use present continuous maybe. Eu estou trabalhando aqui faz ano. Or como alguém que está trabalhando aqui faz ano. So in English, the difference is we use faz ano for a year, but we also have a conjugation that indicates something is started in the past, continuing not just to the present, but it's still happening in the present. This person is still working at McDonald's. And I know that because of the conjugation. So what if we use just past simple? Como alguém que trabalhou faz ano aqui no McDonald's. Yeah, in English, we can't say worked here, worked for a year now. It's a contradiction of information. You have to choose one or the other. If you say worked, as someone who worked at McDonald's for a year, you can't say now, because worked is past simple. Okay, can you say now? Yeah, pode falar, mas pode criar confusão, né? Particularmente se você está escrevendo, alguém está lendo o que você escreveu. Se você está falando, alguém pode perguntar, ou talvez no contexto da conversa tem mais... você vai entender mais o que ele está tentando falar. But if you were just writing, you should not mix for a year now with past simple. That would be grammatically incorrect. Also, it would be a contradiction. It would be confusing. So present perfect continuous, we use this to include the present moment's continuous action, working, into a past timeline of usually when you started, when someone started the action. And in this case, it's been a year that someone started and has continued working at McDonald's. Coming up next, we have present perfect in the same sentence as someone who has been working here for a year now. Present perfect continuous. Casual, but with full-time hours, okay. And who hasn't worked before this. This job is a lot easier than people make it out to be. So now we have present perfect. How do we know that? We have auxiliary to have. E ele está falando, ela está falando usando quem, né, como sujeito. E quem já não trabalhou antes disso. That's the Portuguese. I believe that's the Portuguese, but please correct me if that's incorrect. But we have has not worked. So anytime we have an ed after a conjugation of to have, almost certainly that's present perfect. And what does present perfect mean? How do we use this? How do people understand this when they read or hear have worked before this or has not worked before this? We use this, present perfect, to talk about actions that started in the past, or in the negative, didn't start in the past. But let's just keep it in the affirmative. Actions that started in the past that are within, entre, within, que estão contenido entre parâmetro, a time parameter that includes the present. This does not include any information about the future. So, what's the difference between present perfect continuous and present perfect? Well, present perfect continuous is telling us about a continuous action that started in the past and is still happening in the present. Present perfect doesn't necessarily tell us about the present continuous moment. It's not really including that. It's telling us about something that's happened in the past, at least it started in the past and probably finished in the past, but we don't have any particular or specific information about when it happened in the past. So it's an afirmação que alguma coisa aconteceu ou não já aconteceu ou não já aconteceu no passado. For example, I have never eaten sushi. That would be the negativo, but the affirmative, right? I have eaten sushi. That tells you about an experience in my life. Of course, it's in the past. It doesn't tell you when. No tem informação de quando. You can't say, you shouldn't say, I have eaten sushi yesterday, or I've eaten sushi last month, or I've eaten sushi last week. No, that's contradiction of the conjugation. You don't include that information with present perfect. Now, what is common? You might say, I have eaten sushi before. Somebody asks you, oh, really? When? Oh, I ate it, past simple, yesterday for the first time. It was, past simple, good. So it's very common to start when you're talking about something in your life, an experience, to start with present perfect and move into past simple when you are talking about or including the specific details of the past action. And we'll come back to this because there's another example very quickly, actually, of present perfect. But there's a phrasal verb next. So this job is a lot easier than people make it out to be. Phrasal verb, to make something out to be something. And in this case, the something is easier. And the other something is the job. This job is a lot easier than people make it out to be. So make it out is the phrasal verb. And what does that mean? We use this when people are, or when there's a general characterization or portrayal, or when people are giving the appearance or expressing the appearance of how something is. So they're talking about, right, this is the entire point of the opinion. McDonald's is not a hard job. A pessoa que escreveu isso provavelmente está como perspectiva que pessoas estão dando, expressando uma aparência que trabalhar no McDonald's é difícil. And they're disagreeing. Eles estão discordando com essa ilustração ou essa characterization. So to make something out to be something. So let's do another example. California, people make it out to be a desert. People make California out to be a desert. Well, in some regions it is a desert. In other regions it's not. It's very green. There's plants and trees and forests and flowers and snow and mountains and lakes and rivers. So people make it out to be a desert, but it's not that simple. It's not, the characterization is not that black and white. Here and there, it's a quantifier, an expression to tell about the frequency of something happening. We get abusive customers here and there, but you'll get that with almost every job anyway. So this is talking about abusive customers coming in to the restaurant. The restaurant is it's a big word for McDonald's, but it is a restaurant. So here and there means de vez em quando, às vezes, sometimes. Not all the time, not never, sometimes. And here's our next present perfect. I've been trained. I have been trained. We put the have and the I together. I've been trained on everything, and I love my job. So again, what do we know when someone says, I've been trained? We know that training has acontecido, right? It's happened in the past. Do we know when? No. Do we know por cuánto tiempo? No. For how long? No. We just know afirmativamente que já aconteceu. Ou, no caso de negativo, já não aconteceu, right? In the first one, I haven't worked before this. Sorry for the sniffles, I'm sick. So, I have been trained, present perfect. This expresses as a matter of fact, as an affirmation, that this person, the subject, affirms some previous action, training, without any specific details about when exactly the previous action acontecido, happened. I have never been to Europe. Well, we have been to Europe. You should visit. When did you go to Europe? Oh, we went last summer. So that is how a conversation between people very frequently and naturally goes or moves or shifts from present perfect, I have done something, I have never done something, to past simple. Oh, you have done this. Tell me about it. Oh, it was fun. It was when I was a child. It was in the summer. Past simple. Coming up next, that's all we got for All Things English. Coming up next, questions and conversation about work. McDonald's isn't a hard job. And when we say hard, duro, we mean duro or difícil, difficult. Difficult. McDonald's isn't a hard job. That was the opinion. We read an explanation. We did All Things English. Our first question, in your opinion, what makes a job hard or difficult? In your opinion, what makes a job hard or difficult? Na sua opinião, o que faz trabalho difícil ou duro? Is it physical labor? Is it something about the physical nature of a job? You have to sit down all day. That's hard on the body. You have to lift or levar heavy things, coisas pesadas. Or maybe it's about intellectually difficult. You have to think. You have to solve problems. Is it repetição de ações que você que tão chatos? For example, working at McDonald's, you do the same thing again and again and again and again and again. Does that make a job difficult? Is it the social part, right? You have to deal with people. Customer service jobs, service industry jobs where people are frequently saying these are the worst, most difficult jobs. Why? It's not because of the physical part. Usually the messaging is you have to deal with customers, and that's horrible. So what is it, in your opinion? What makes a job hard or difficult? Is it about the pay? Is any job difficult if you don't get paid a lot of money? Is any job easy if you do get paid a lot of money? So how does money factor in? How does money affect your opinion about what makes a job hard or difficult? Our second question, do you consider your job to be difficult? Or school, if you're in school. Do you consider school to be difficult? Do you consider, se você considera, that's hard. Se você considera seu trabalho ser difícil ou duro, do I consider my job to be difficult? That's a difficult question. When I'm doing my job, typically it's not very difficult for me. What do I mean? It's physically difficult. Sitting down and talking to a computer screen can be physically and mentally difficult, but not extremely difficult. Teaching young people is difficult. Teaching young children is difficult, especially for a foreign language, because sometimes they don't understand some of the concepts in their language, in their native language, and learning it in a foreign language or a second language. Sometimes you're teaching them something for the first time. They've never heard this before. And in language learning, you don't expect that. You expect that you're teaching them a second language, meaning they already learned the first language. Usually I teach adults. Adults, is my job difficult? It's frustrating because you wish that every student had, tivesse, the same motivação, the same motivation. And if every student had the same motivation, my job would be much more enjoyable, fun, because people would be more committed to doing things outside of class to improve, para melhorar, aumentar. But that's not the case. And sometimes you have students that, you know, lutar, avançar, they're struggling to advance because they won't or can't do anything except class. That makes my time much more stressful. So, is my job difficult? Is your job difficult? What do you think should be the relationship between pay, remuneração, pagamento, salário, and difficulty of the job? What should the relationship be? The more difficult, the more pay? That makes sense, I think, but then we have to really definir, what makes a job difficult. Because I imagine most people would consider some of the most difficult jobs that do not merecer, deserve the most money. Being a lawyer for Donald Trump is a very easy job. You just lie. You don't do anything really. You just lie. Do you need to find evidence? Do you need to cite cases? No, you just lie. You just do something very basic and you get paid a lot of money. Sports, athletes, people consider those games. They don't look at them as jobs. They are jobs with almost all of the same characteristics as other jobs. There are rules. There's pay. There's rules about how much you get paid for how much work you do. If you get injured, oh no, you might not get paid, where in real life you're supposed to get paid at least if you are injured or ferido. And athletes get paid a lot of money. Is it difficult to be a professional athlete? I couldn't do it. How do I know I couldn't do it? Because I'm not doing it. I think everyone who could be a professional athlete is a professional athlete. So, what do you think should be the relationship? O que você acha deveria ser o relacionamento entre pagamento, remuneração, salário e dificuldade do trabalho? If McDonald's paid as much as your current job, would you consider changing jobs? And what if they paid more than your current job? Why and why not? Se o McDonald's pagasse tão dinheiro quanto o seu trabalho atual, você consideraria uma mudança de trabalho para McDonald's? E se eles pagassem mais que seu trabalho atual, o que você faria? Mudaria trabalho ou não? Por que sim ou por que não? So this is about what makes a job difficult, what makes a job valuable to people. If McDonald's paid as much as your job, would you switch? I don't know what your job is, but whatever it is, if McDonald's paid the same, would you do something like work at McDonald's, where maybe you're not creating, you're not communicating, and like in your other job, you don't have the same passion about the job, but it pays really good. So would you do it? Same as not just McDonald's, but what about trabalho na fazenda, picking fruit, picking vegetables, being a day laborer in a farm? If they paid as much as your current job, would you do it? That's physically difficult, very physically difficult work. Would you do it if they paid well? Why do I think this matters to Brazil? Well, I didn't write anything for this section, but I'm not sure how much it does matter. But I think it matters to humans, to society, to try and evaluate and re-evaluate our values And in a capitalistic society, our values are represented professionally by how much we pay people. And the people who get paid the most are valued the most. The people who are paid the least are valued the least. I believe there should be a positive relationship between difficulty of the job, not how to get to the job, but of the job, and pay. So, people working at McDonald's, I believe, should be paid well. And people who, are YouTube streamers, I don't think should be paid at all. But hey, I'm making a podcast on YouTube, and I'm not paid. I certainly don't have enough people listening to get paid. And if I were paid by YouTube, I would take the money. But I believe that we should the pandemic, pandemia foi oportunidade de ver trabalho útil, right? Useful work that can't stop. Even in a global pandemic where you might actually go to work and get sick and die, or get someone in your family sick and they die if you keep working. But those people had to keep working because it was the most important work. So, food for thought. Thank you. This is the English Language Learning Podcast.